We've decided to restructure your role to focus on AI oversight rather than direct client management. That's what Nathan Park, our Chief Technology Officer, announced during our department meeting on a Tuesday morning in March 2024, presenting a slide showing how artificial intelligence would be taking over client relationship functions that I'd been managing for 9 years. AI oversight rather than direct client management. I'd been Senior Client Success Manager at TechBridge Consulting for 9 years, maintaining relationships with enterprise clients who relied on our technology implementation services, understanding their business challenges well enough to anticipate problems before clients articulated them, and ensuring project teams delivered solutions that actually addressed client needs rather than just completing contract specifications. But according to Nathan, our CTO who joined TechBridge 8 months earlier from a Silicon Valley AI startup where he'd evangelized about technology replacing human workers, my years of relationship knowledge and client expertise could be replicated by a large language model that would analyze communication patterns and generate responses faster than humans could, and the company had decided that paying me $135,000 annually to manage client relationships was inefficient when an AI system could handle those relationships for essentially zero marginal cost per interaction. I'm Olivia Chen, and I sat in that conference room at TechBridge Consulting watching Nathan explain how his AI platform would revolutionize client success management while I knew exactly which aspects of client relationships couldn't be automated and exactly what would happen when our most important enterprise client discovered they were communicating with algorithms instead of the person who'd understood their business for 7 years. 9 years, 4 months, and 13 days of building trust with executives who needed to know someone at TechBridge actually cared about their success, learning the unwritten organizational dynamics that determined whether projects succeeded or failed, and Nathan had decided that client relationships were just pattern matching and response generation that machines could handle more efficiently than humans. I wasn't the executive who closed deals or the engineer who wrote code. I drove a 2020 Honda Accord with 72,000 miles on it and client organizational charts printed out in my passenger seat because I reviewed key stakeholder changes during my commute to prepare for the day's interactions. I lived in an apartment in Austin with a home office containing file boxes full of project histories, client meeting notes, and relationship maps showing which executives championed our projects and which ones needed additional attention. My desk had framed photos from client site visits where I'd spent days understanding their operations. Photos that reminded me these weren't just accounts, they were actual people whose careers depended on our project succeeding. I was relationship-focused, attuned to subtle communication cues that revealed problems before they escalated, protective of client trust that took years to build, and apparently replaceable by a chatbot that Nathan believed could analyze sentiment and generate empathetic responses without actually understanding context or caring about outcomes. The trouble had started 8 months earlier when TechBridge Consulting had hired Nathan Park as CTO to accelerate AI adoption and drive operational efficiency through automation. TechBridge provided technology implementation services to large corporations, helping them deploy enterprise software, migrate to cloud infrastructure, integrate systems, and optimize IT operations. Our business model depended on long-term client relationships where we became trusted technology partners rather than transactional vendors. Client success managers were critical to this model. We maintained ongoing relationships with executives at client companies, understood their business strategies and challenges, coordinated between clients and our project teams, identified expansion opportunities, resolved issues before they became crises, and generally ensured clients viewed TechBridge as a valuable partner worth retaining year after year. This relationship management required understanding business context, reading interpersonal dynamics, knowing when to escalate and when to handle things quietly, and building personal trust that survived occasional project problems. Nathan came from a different world. He'd spent 5 years at an AI startup that built natural language processing systems, and he believed that most white-collar work could be automated through sufficiently sophisticated algorithms. He had that aggressive automation mindset, talking about human obsolescence in repetitive tasks, AI-augmented workflows, and eliminating expensive headcount through intelligent systems, that worked well for truly routine tasks but became dangerous when applied to relationship-dependent roles requiring judgment, context, and genuine care about outcomes. Nathan's first major initiative had been implementing an AI system called ClientBridge that would augment and eventually replace traditional client success management. The system used large language models to analyze client communications, generate responses to emails and messages, schedule meetings, create status reports, and flag potential issues for human review. Nathan's vision was that AI would handle 80 to 85% of client communication, with humans intervening only for the most complex situations requiring executive judgment. In August 2023, Nathan had piloted Client Bridge with 3 of our smaller client accounts. The results had been mixed. The AI handled routine status updates and scheduling reasonably well. But it struggled with nuanced situations, misinterpreting a client's frustration as mere information seeking, generating technically accurate but tone-deaf responses to sensitive concerns, and missing contextual cues that experienced client managers would catch immediately. I'd raised concerns about the pilot results in September 2023. One client had complained that they felt like they were talking to a bot, rather than a person who understood their business. Another client had explicitly asked whether TechBridge was using AI to manage their account, expressing concern that automation suggested TechBridge didn't value the relationship enough to assign dedicated human attention. Nathan had dismissed these concerns as adjustment period friction. Clients will adapt to AI interaction once they experience the improved response times and 24/7 availability. The key is making the AI responses indistinguishable from human responses so clients don't even realize they're communicating with a system. This statement had revealed Nathan's fundamental misunderstanding. The value of client success management wasn't response speed or 24/7 availability, it was relationship trust, business understanding, and genuine care about client success. Clients didn't just want fast answers, they wanted answers from someone who understood their context and had their interests at heart. Despite the pilot results, Nathan had convinced TechBridge CEO and board that Client Bridge represented the future of client success management. In February 2024, he proposed expanding the AI system to handle all client accounts, with client success managers transitioning to AI oversight roles where they'd monitor system performance and intervene only when the AI flagged issues requiring human judgment. On March 5, 2024, Nathan had announced the restructuring plan. The 5 client success managers at TechBridge, including me, would be transitioned to new roles. 3 would become AI oversight specialists monitoring Client Bridge performance across all accounts. 2, including me, would be laid off as redundant once the AI system was fully operational. I was given 90 days to either accept a lower-paid oversight role or leave the company. My largest and most important client account was Wellington Industries, a Fortune 500 manufacturing conglomerate where I'd been the relationship manager for 7 years. Wellington had over $800 million in annual revenue with TechBridge through multiple technology projects. I'd built deep relationships with Wellington's CIO, Susan Martinez, their VP of Technology Operations, James Park, and their Director of Digital Transformation, Rebecca Thompson. I understood Wellington's organizational culture, knew which executives championed different initiatives, understood their internal politics, and had earned trust through 7 years of honest communication and reliable project delivery. Nathan's plan was to transition the Wellington account to Client Bridge AI management effective April 1. The system would handle all routine communication, meeting scheduling, status reporting, and issue tracking. A junior oversight specialist would monitor the AI's interactions and intervene if the system flagged anything requiring human attention. I'd asked Nathan whether he discussed this transition with Susan Martinez at Wellington. Nathan said he didn't need to. Wellington's contract was with TechBridge as a firm, not with me personally, and clients would adapt to AI management just as they'd adapted to other technological changes. I'd warned Nathan that Susan valued personal relationships and had explicitly told me multiple times that her trust in TechBridge was based largely on knowing she could call me with concerns and get straight answers. Nathan had characterized this as Susan being attached to legacy interaction models that would evolve. Now about 72% of you think I'm about to sabotage the AI system or deliberately poison the client relationship, and you're completely wrong. Subscribe right now, because what actually happens is that AI systems fail in predictable ways when handling relationships requiring genuine understanding, and clients who value trust replace vendors who replace humans with machines. On April 1, 2024, the Client Bridge AI system took over management of the Wellington Industries account. I was still employed during my 90-day transition period but was no longer the assigned relationship manager. All Wellington communications were routed to the AI system, which analyzed inquiries and generated responses using its language models and knowledge of TechBridge service offerings and Wellington's project history. The first week went smoothly from Nathan's perspective. The AI handled routine status update requests, scheduled follow-up meetings, and generated weekly project reports. Response times were fast. Email volume was high, with the AI sending multiple detailed updates. Nathan pointed to these metrics as validation that AI management was working effectively. But I noticed warning signs. The AI's responses were technically accurate but lacked relationship context. When James Park asked about a minor delay in one project, the AI generated a comprehensive explanation of the technical issues causing the delay. This was accurate information, but it wasn't what James needed. He'd asked about the delay because he needed to inform his CEO, and what he really wanted was reassurance that the delay wouldn't cascade into larger problems and guidance on how to frame it internally. The AI provided facts but missed the relationship need. In the second week, the situation worsened. Wellington was in the middle of a sensitive internal reorganization where Susan Martinez's authority over technology strategy was being questioned by Wellington's CFO, who wanted more control over IT spending. Susan needed TechBridge to provide ammunition for an executive presentation defending the technology investments she'd championed. This required understanding Wellington's internal politics and framing project successes in ways that addressed CFO concerns about spending and ROI. Susan sent an email to what she thought was still my email address. Olivia, I need your help preparing for Thursday's board presentation. CFO is questioning the cloud migration costs. Can you help me frame our results in a way that shows clear business value rather than just IT metrics? The Client Bridge AI received this email and generated a response providing detailed IT metrics about the cloud migration, server utilization rates, performance improvements, uptime statistics. All accurate information. All completely missing Susan's actual need, which was help navigating internal politics to defend her technology strategy against a CFO who wanted to cut her budget. Susan called TechBridge's main number asking to speak with me. The call was routed to the AI oversight specialist, who didn't understand Wellington's context and tried to explain that the AI had provided comprehensive cloud migration metrics. Susan asked explicitly to speak with me. The specialist explained that I was no longer the Wellington relationship manager. Susan asked who the new relationship manager was. The specialist explained that Wellington's account was now managed by the Client Bridge AI system with human oversight. There was a long silence on the call. Then Susan said, "You're telling me that after 7 years of working with Olivia, TechBridge has replaced her with a computer?" The specialist tried to frame it positively: faster responses, 24/7 availability, comprehensive data analysis. Susan interrupted, "I don't want a computer. I want someone who understands my business and gives me advice I can trust. Please have someone senior call me by the end of day." The oversight specialist escalated to Nathan Park. Nathan called Susan that afternoon and tried to explain how Client Bridge represented advanced AI capability that would provide better service than traditional relationship management. Susan's response, according to Nathan, was, "Nathan, I work with TechBridge because I trust the people here to understand my challenges and give me honest advice. When I ask Olivia for help with a political problem, she understands the politics and helps me navigate them. Your AI gave me server utilization statistics when I needed strategic communication advice. That's not better service, that's the difference between a tool and a trusted advisor." Nathan tried to argue that the AI system would learn and improve with time. Susan had ended the call by saying she needed to discuss with her team whether TechBridge was still the right technology partner given this change in how they managed relationships. Over the next 2 weeks in April, similar problems compounded. Rebecca Thompson at Wellington sent an email asking whether TechBridge could help with a sensitive problem. They discovered that a vendor was potentially overcharging for software licenses and needed advice on how to audit and renegotiate without damaging the vendor relationship. This required understanding vendor contracts, software licensing practices, and relationship management strategies. The Client Bridge AI generated a response providing general information about software license auditing best practices and suggesting Rebecca contact TechBridge's licensing team for detailed analysis. This wasn't wrong, but it wasn't helpful. Rebecca wanted confidential advice from someone she trusted about how to handle a delicate situation, not a referral to another department. The AI had treated a request for strategic advice like a service desk ticket. In late April, Wellington experienced a critical system outage that disrupted manufacturing operations for 6 hours. James Park needed immediate answers. What caused it? How quickly could it be fixed? And what would TechBridge do to prevent recurrence? The Client Bridge AI generated responses providing technical root cause analysis and remediation steps. But what James really needed was someone to get on a call with him immediately, acknowledge the severity, take ownership of the situation, and provide personal reassurance that TechBridge was treating this as top priority. The AI couldn't do this. It generated emails when James needed a phone call. It provided analysis when he needed empathy and accountability. By the time the oversight specialist recognized this required human intervention and organized a call, 4 hours had passed and James was furious that TechBridge's initial response to a critical outage had been automated email messages. On April 28, Susan Martinez called TechBridge CEO, Michael Chung, directly. According to Michael's later account of the call, Susan had been direct. Michael, Wellington Industries has been TechBridge's client for 9 years and we've spent over $800 million with you during that time. We've stayed with TechBridge because we trust your team and value our relationships with people like Olivia Chen who understand our business. 3 weeks ago, you replaced Olivia with an AI system. Since then, we've received technically accurate but contextually useless responses to sensitive questions. We've been given IT metrics when we needed strategic advice, and when we had a critical outage, your AI sent us emails instead of someone getting on the phone to take ownership. This isn't improved service. This is cost-cutting disguised as innovation. I need to know whether TechBridge values Wellington as a strategic partner or views us as an account that can be managed by algorithms. Michael had been unaware of the details. Nathan had reported that the Client Bridge AI was performing well and that client metrics were positive. Michael promised Susan he would personally investigate and resolve the situation. On April 29, Michael called an emergency executive meeting with Nathan, myself, and TechBridge's VP of Client Services. Michael wanted to understand exactly what had happened with Wellington. Nathan tried to explain that there had been an adjustment period and some miscommunications. I walked through the specific incidents, Susan asking for political advice and receiving server metrics, Rebecca asking for strategic guidance and being referred to another department, James needing personal reassurance during an outage and receiving automated emails. Michael asked me directly, Olivia, if you were still managing Wellington's account, how would you have handled these situations differently? I explained that I would have immediately understood Susan's political challenge and provided specific advice about framing technology ROI for her. CFO. I would have discussed Rebecca's vendor problem confidentially and suggested negotiation strategies. I would have called James within 15 minutes of the outage, starting to personally acknowledge the problem and assure him we were treating it as top priority. Michael asked Nathan, why couldn't the AI do these things? Nathan tried to explain that the situations required judgment and context that the AI was still learning. Michael responded, Nathan, Wellington is an $800 million client. They don't have time to wait while our AI learns judgment. They have problems now that need solutions from people who understand their business and care about their success. On May 1, Michael called Susan Martinez and told her that Olivia Chen was being reinstated as Wellington's relationship manager effective immediately, that TechBridge was suspending AI management for strategic client accounts, and that he personally apologized for replacing a trusted advisor with an automated system without considering the impact on their relationship. Susan's response was that she appreciated the change but needed to think about whether TechBridge was still the right partner. Wellington had been considering consolidating more services with TechBridge, but the AI replacement incident had raised questions about TechBridge's judgment and values. Susan said she'd make a decision by the end of May about whether to expand the relationship, maintain current services, or begin transitioning to alternative vendors. On May 3, Michael offered me a new role, VP of Strategic Client Services, reporting directly to him, with responsibility for managing all relationships with enterprise clients generating over $20 million annually. My salary increased from $135,000 to $185,000, a 37% increase. I would also have explicit authority to veto any AI automation proposals affecting strategic client relationships. Over the next 3 weeks, I worked to rebuild trust with Susan, James, and Rebecca at Wellington. I scheduled in-person meetings, acknowledged that the AI replacement had been a mistake that didn't reflect TechBridge's values, and demonstrated through consistent personal attention that TechBridge valued Wellington as a strategic partner rather than just a revenue source. On May 28, Susan called me with Wellington's decision. They would maintain current services with TechBridge and would expand to 3 new projects worth an additional $47 million over 2 years, but only with the explicit understanding that Wellington's account would be managed by human relationship managers who understood their business, not by AI systems optimized for response speed over relationship quality. On June 15, Nathan Park resigned from TechBridge. His client Bridge AI system was quietly discontinued for all strategic client accounts. Nathan took a position at another AI startup where he could continue pursuing his vision of automated client relationships without the complications of actual client relationships that depended on human trust. In August 2024, I ran into Nathan at a technology conference. He was presenting on a panel about AI in enterprise services. After his panel, he approached me. "Olivia, I heard you were promoted after the Wellington situation. That worked out well for you." I looked at him directly. "It worked out for me because I understood something you didn't, that client relationships aren't just communication patterns to be replicated by algorithms." Susan Martinez trusted me because I'd spent 7 years learning her business, understanding her challenges, and giving her advice that reflected genuine care about her success. When you replaced me with an AI that analyzed sentiment and generated responses, you replaced relationship trust with pattern matching. And when Wellington had problems that needed judgment and empathy, your AI provided technically correct information while completely missing what they actually needed. Nathan tried to defend his approach. AI systems improve through learning. Client Bridge would have eventually developed the contextual understanding that experienced client managers have. I responded, "Nathan, you don't get to experiment with learning curves on $800 million client relationships." Susan needed help navigating internal politics while your AI was learning to recognize political context. James needed immediate personal reassurance during an outage while your AI was learning that some situations require phone calls instead of emails. Rebecca needed confidential strategic advice while your AI was learning that not everything is a service ticket. You treated irreplaceable relationships like optimization problems, and Wellington nearly left because they realized you valued efficiency metrics more than human trust. Nathan walked away without responding. "Thanks for staying through this entire story. Everyone who's ever been told your job could be automated by AI, or who've watched companies replace human expertise with algorithms while missing everything that actually makes relationships valuable. If this resonated with you, if you've experienced the difference between real understanding and pattern matching, subscribe and share your story. These workplace tales remind us that some things can't be automated: trust, judgment, empathy, and genuine care about outcomes, and that companies who replace humans with machines in relationship-dependent roles learn expensive lessons when clients choose to work with people who actually understand them.